This week's story involving a Cole County daycare opens both safety concerns and legal questions. Good evening, everyone. I'm John Marique.
And I'm Brittany Pieper. The owner of that daycare had a previous criminal conviction for child endangerment. So Target 8 Chief Investigator Jamie Gray has been working with her team for the last 48 hours, gathering new details, documents, and answering your questions.
Jim, Brittany, for this story, we've been working with viewers in a special Town Square edition of Target 8. We've been taking your questions, merging them with ours, and now getting you some answers. How are Missouri daycares regulated, and how can someone with a criminal conviction operate a daycare? We'll begin with KOMU 8's Connor Smith. He's live at the Cole County Courthouse. He's been looking into the legal aspects of this story since the time it broke. He has new details about the original case and a new interview with the prosecutor.
I've been following this story since Tuesday when Abigail Connell was in court for possession of a controlled substance and 3 counts of child endangerment. I've obtained a number of documents since then about her pending court case and others. The documents show Abigail's mother, Shelley Richter, called deputies after she found the drugs at her in-home daycare. Richter was sentenced last March to 5 years in prison for child endangerment. She was found guilty after being accused of shaking a 7-month-old baby. This raised the question, how is Shelley Richter not in prison? Court documents show she bonded out. Today, I talked to Cole County Prosecutor Mark Richardson and asked him how that was possible after a conviction.
Well, people may wonder why Ms. Richter is out on bond and not in custody, and that's because the court set an appeal bond amount, and she posted that appeal bond amount back in March, shortly after she was sentenced last year. And so as long as that appeal bond is in effect, then she'll remain out until her appeal is finally determined by the Court of Appeals.
Also new today, I received Sheriff's Department reports from Abigail's father that show a domestic disturbance involving Richter and Abigail when she was 16. Documents state the disturbance ended with Abigail at the hospital after her mother hit her, grabbed her, and pulled her hair. Before Abigail's trip to the ER, Cole County Sheriff's deputies said this appeared to be, quote, parental discipline, not abuse. Yesterday, Samantha Meyer stopped by Shelley Richter's home for her side. Samantha?
Thanks, Connor. When I got to the house, she was standing outside. When I asked for comment, she said she wasn't talking to the media. And after her daughter was arrested, we wanted to know why it seemed like an unlicensed daycare was flying under the radar. But then I found out there's not really a radar to begin with. We opened up the conversation on our Facebook page, and I questioned the Department of Health. A big concern we heard from you. How do you know if your child is in safe hands? We heard comments like this one, that parents shouldn't have to worry about their child while working. Another viewer said, not everyone can afford background checks, that she used to take her son to a home care and had a problem. She says her son never went back and is now in a licensed daycare facility. And she's not the only one.
And I learned that you get what you pay for. And that is why, I made the decision that I made to place my children where they are.
Betsy Dawn wants to know this. Why in the first place is this mother allowed to still have a daycare after being found guilty of child endangerment? Let's start there and then move on to a very long list of questions regarding the situation. So we looked into it. I wanted to see if complaints were filed against Richter's daycare and obtained this complaint. One person saying Richter was doing business with more than 4 kids, which would require a license, so the department stepped in to investigate. In this document from 2010, Richter told the department she was operating her business with 8 kids, but the department only observed 4 kids at the time and told her she could basically keep it to 4 kids or get a license. But that's all there was on file because Richter's daycare is unlicensed. The Missouri Department of Health doesn't have to do any annual checkups. And if this seems troubling, daycare associations agree and rank Missouri 33rd out of 50 when it comes to child care facilities because of lack of regulation and training.
I would really like to see in Missouri that there maybe be some legislation somewhere and that would get changed, because as parents, I think that we are the responsible people in figuring out who's caring for our children.
Tonight in a Target 8 report, we're fact-checking candidate claims made during last week's GOP debate for the race to the governor's office. Our Target 8 team has been looking into the validity of statements from each of the 4 candidates during the debate and talking to you, the viewers, about what to look into. We'll begin with KOMU 8's Connor Smith in the newsroom with our findings.
We spent the weekend digging the claims that stuck out to us and our viewers from last week's debate. From candidates going head-to-head on gun rights, to marijuana legalization, to Missouri business struggles. We found out which claims were true and which ones missed the mark. Eric Greitens and Catherine Hanaway go head-to-head on Second Amendment protections.
The fact is, she voted against concealed carry in 2003. And it wasn't just once. She was against concealed carry in 2002. She was against concealed carry in 1999.
The Joplin Globe reports Hanaway initially did oppose the concealed carry measure in 2003. But as Speaker of the Missouri House, she was part of overriding the governor's veto of that same bill. As for 1999, Hanaway told the Globe, quote, "I had a bad vote on conceal and carry because I was voting for my district." Greitens continued on Hanaway's record.
It was so bad that the NRA gave her a D, a rating lower than Chris Koster.
The Joplin Globe shows Hanaway did receive a D rating in 2003, then was awarded an A rating following her support of the bill. Votesmart.org shows in 2004 the NRA gave Hanaway a lifetime B rating, and in 2008 the NRA gave Chris Koster an A rating. Greitens' claims about Hanaway's gun records are mostly true, with additional information needed.
The last time I ran for office, the NRA said that I was the best choice.
Hanaway last ran for public office in 2004 when she received an endorsement from the NRA. The NRA said, quote, "Catherine Hanaway fought to pass right to carry for all law-abiding Missourians. Hanaway's strong support for individual gun ownership rights earned her NRA's endorsement." This proves Hanaway's claim to be true. John Bruner took on business in St. Louis, explaining his record there.
This is a neighborhood next to Ferguson, or about a mile or two down the road. This is an area that is tremendously economically depressed. I mean, businesses were leaving. We were the last company standing. The company next door went to Mississippi and then on to Mexico.
KOMU 8 News reached out to Bruner's campaign to see what businesses were leaving and what company was headed to Mexico. But we haven't heard back. So we started making calls to businesses neighboring Bruner's. The St. Louis Business Journal reported a General Electric plant closed and moved its facility to Monterrey, Mexico in February 2007. Bruner's claims about being the only business remaining are false. But his claim that his company remained after another moved to Mexico is true. On ethics, there were a number of fireworks, one of which, Kinder explaining spending on travel as lieutenant governor after being criticized for hotel bills.
I wrote the largest personal check I've ever written for $53,000 to remove any hint of a taint from my name, and I operated under that burden.
After checking with the state auditor's office, we found proof he did send a check to the state that was cashed for $52,320. Kinder's claim proves to be true. We've been talking to you, the viewers, since the debate aired. Now Amy Money is in studio with reaction and her findings on your questions.
You've been commenting on Facebook and Twitter all weekend, asking us questions about the gubernatorial candidates. We'll start with John Cordet, who says, "I am a small business owner. I am curious which candidate best supports small business." John Bruner spoke the most last Thursday about his part in business. His family's business started small and in a poor area, but grew into a company that he says has brought billions of dollars to Missouri and created thousands of jobs. Next, we have Debbie Taylor Shivers, who says, "I would like to know if any of the candidates support massive tax reform." Peter Kinder said in the debate last Thursday he plans to reduce the income tax in Missouri and trim the tax code. His website claims during his lengthy political history, he has contributed to cutting spending in the past. Holly J. McGee says 22 veterans a day die because of suicide, and that is an issue that needs to be addressed, as well as homeless women veterans. Eric Greitens spoke the most Thursday about his past in the military. Fortune magazine named him one of the world's 50 greatest leaders back in 2014 for his work with a military nonprofit for veterans. And Katie Mary Robertson says, would like to know how they support law enforcement in our state. Well, Catherine Hanaway is a former federal prosecutor and spoke the most on this particular issue. A few points she makes on her website are to support officers who are doing their jobs right and to impose a 3-year mandatory minimum sentence for all violent assaults of police officers.